Hi, hello, and welcome back to our show. This will be a continuation of the Drakes Spoiled Brat, I'm Sorry Dad, by Yellow Sprouts. Chapter 6 Holy Homophobia, Batman. Rain or shine, Gotham was a city that never slept, for better or worse. On especially good days, the streets filled with people out to enjoy the spotty good weather. But there were people that were potential victims, and for an unusual high crime rate, not all criminals preferred to do their business during the late hours of the night. That's why, on top of the Gotham City Bank, stood a vexing and vicious vigilante, adorned in bright purple, a symbol for royalty to some, and now an identity many Gothamites had come to recognize. A symbol of safety for the innocent and danger for the deranged, who plagued the city streets with their villainy. Fast as a bullet, the purple-clad vigilante took off, experiently dancing across rooftops to dodge the bustling streets below. What sort of badassery must she be up to? Absolutely nothing. Because day shift was one of those nails on a chalkboard boring experience that far surpassed any experience with state testing or a DMV appointment combined. But it was a necessary responsibility, and not all parts of vigilante life are fun, Stephanie. This was all Dick's fault. Him and his puppy dog eyes. Take the day shift on my behalf and you'll have more free times after bullshit. Steb mocked as she shot another grappling hook, throwing her whole body weight off the building. There was the moment of failing, a sensation that used to be terrifying and now felt unlike freedom. The line grew taut as it supported her weight, swinging forward as she lunged onto the next platform, gravel scattering the moment her boots made contact with the roof. Nightwing is a lying man-whore, she snapped, feeling a bit of satisfaction at the snort that came across comms. I will have you know that he has maybe 5 pirates total, myself included. Oracle voice filtered through, a small buzz like warp, but still distinctly Babs. Nightwing is a manhole on principle, not in practice. Don't worry, no, he's really a prude. Steph said, sliding behind an AC unit as she continued across the roof. Right as you are. Besides, if he's a man-her, then that makes me whole prime. Babs, Barbie, you're a queen among men, an alpha woman, if you will. Codename spoiler, Babs chested. Yeah, Steph pouted, but obliged. Babs was second only to Batman himself on enforcing rules in and out of masks. But we all see in the Discovery pictures, you are too elegant a woman to be a team whore status. Gee, thanks, Oracle sighed, though she did sound amused, although she counted this as a win. Steph settled down on the rooftop, letting her legs dangle off the side of the building and enjoying the smell of rain from the night before being carried through by the wind. It was overall peaceful. Which was a polite way of saying boring, really. Are you sure there's nothing going on? Steph whined. No updates from 10 minutes ago, no. Steph threw herself back and laid on the gravel with a groan. It was one thing forced to do patrol alone, but the day shift on top of that? That's just saying you hate her guts. And are you sure you can't join me? Steph batted her eyes, despite knowing, mostly, Babs couldn't see her. Before you say, why target me, it's because Cass is still on the backpacking trip and I refuse to ask one of the boys. Babs sounded sympathetic, but sucked in the breath that she knew meant denial. No dice, it's a flare-up day, so I'm in the tower bound. Steph sat up. Oh shit, how bad? I'm fine. I already took my meds and it's half the reason I'm putting up with your whining that rivals Brucie. No, that's just hurtful. I'm not theater kid level drama. Babs hummed in lieu of another response, which was plain insulting. As her eyes scanned the busy street, they locked onto a flare of color, bright blue, and her lips split into a grin. You know what? If I'm going to survive this shift, I need caffeine and sugar, so going dark. Tap me in if you get any updates. Will do, and bring me coffee at the end of the shift, okay? There was a clicking of keys on the other end, but Steph could hear a smirk in her voice. Medium half-calf latte with caramel drizzle? Make it large, Babs replied, and then the comm made a small buzz as it was temporarily disconnected. Steph grinned, reaching into one of the side pockets of her uniform and double-checking she had enough cash to spare for a little patrol treat. Of course, factored into her allowance from Bruce. She snapped the grapple gun under her belt as she skipped over to the fire escape, making quick work of slipping down and landing on the concrete sideway below. Thankfully, no one batted an eye at her, other than a few people polite enough to shift their walking path not to smack into her. But it was still Gotham, so after triple checking the road, it was clear she sprinted across like her life depended on it, which it likely did. Once securely across, she happily bounded up to the cafe doors. The sleepy kitten was greeted with the gracious presence of Spoiler in full uniform as Steph used it a bit too much strength to, and the greeting bell more slammed against the glass than just chimed. She winced, but thankfully noted the cafe was practically ghost time except for a small group of teens huddled around the table with some cards and a man in the back corner seemingly laser focused on whatever was on the laptop. Just a minute, a sweet voice called out as she approached the counter. Steph waved at the group of teens that seemed happy to see her. They returned it, but then quickly went back to their game. Oh God, well, what brings Gotham finest to this little shop? The Steph turned back to the counter and froze on the spot. Holy fucking gay panic Batman. She'll dig $1 million. No, 2 million. No, her kidneys. There stood a girl about her age, dirty blonde waves framing her face like a halo, pulled back by a kitty paw-shaped hair clip tucked just above her ear and showing off bright, rosy cheeks and wide brown eyes that seemed to light up as she spoke. There was a god, for the sheer fact she had a name tag. Gwen was written in beautiful cursive and a small flower on the end. Yes, she cleared her throat. Get a grip, girl. I need 2 large coffees. Gwen pulled a pencil out from her apron. It had a kitty paw on it. All right, any specification or just straight black? Oh, 1 half-calf latte with caramel drizzle, and what do you recommend? Gwen lit up more, if that was even possible. I'm not a huge coffee drinker, so my go-to is the iced chai. She placed her pen down and shuffled away from the counter for a sec, before quickly returning with a metal tin, showing it off. Steph nodded dumbly, since not a single word looked to be in English. Thankfully, she took pity on her dumb ass and quickly divulged an explanation. The owner's husband is Indian, so he insists we have the actual spice blend instead of the bastardized Western version, as to die for, really. Well, I don't plan on dying today, so I'd like to try it. Steph half leaned on the counter, trying her best to look smooth, even as her elbow slipped against the plastic menu type down. Gwen's hand shot to her mouth as she muffled a small snort, and Steph felt her bones melting in skin. She picked up her pen again and jotted down the order in that same cursive handwriting. Okie dokie, that'll be $9.50 total. Would you like to make a donation for our upcoming charity event? She looked up at Steph, big brown eyes sparkling in the shitty LED lights above. Well, as a protector of Gotham, it's practically my duty, huh? Steph tried to flip her hair before quickly realizing it was covered by her crown. Oh, don't feel obligated, really, Gwen assured. You already do so much for our city. Steph shook her head out of the fluster at this. She fumbled with her zipper pocket to pull out a 20. No, it's perfect. Keep the change. Can I also get a muffin? Gwen took the bill, and Steph tried not to stare at her hand and the light blue polish nail and small stack of beaded bracelets around her wrist. By the cool feel, there were some real stones. Any preferences? Steph blinked. Surprise me. Gwen just smiled and winked at Steph. Her bones were most definitely melting. Thanks God for masks. I'll have your order ready in a jiffy. Steph just shot her a thumbs up as soon as the register snapped shut and Gwen vanished behind a doorway. God, Steph, you fucking, you stupid lesbian. Just how can you claim to be an elite vigilante if you're so easily thrown off by a pretty girl? But hey, it at least was Ivy this time. She could not deal with that lecture again. That was funny watching me flounder when she called him homophobic. Anyway, you couldn't blame a girl for trying. Sure, Dickface didn't have the most extensive dating record, and outside of an on and off fling with Roy, she didn't think Jason dated, period. If those two idiots managed to juggle their emo angst phase, responsibilities in and out of masks, and dating, she had a chance. Not saying, of course, she wanted to date this girl. Hell, she just met her, and in masks at that. Being might not outlaw dating, but she wouldn't hear the end of it if tabloids started posting about Spoiler's girlfriend. It's just some delusional daydreaming, a mini teenage fling fantasy, if you will. Besides, she is just a girl. Gwen reappeared with a small brown bag she placed on the head of the counter, just out of Steph's reach. No peeking, she said quickly before beginning to work on the drinks. Well, considering Spoiler just took patrol from Nightwing, she had some free time. Right? Hey, so the charity you mentioned, the event's coming up? Gwen popped her head up from behind the coffee maker. Oh, yes, it's next week. We're raising money for the local shelter in order to get the funds to transition it to a no-kill shelter. I didn't know it was a kill shelter in the first place. That's awful. Yeah, well, they didn't have many options. People here can barely take care of themselves, let alone a furry friend. And shelters can afford the sheer amount of animals they have to hand already. Gwen sounded outright sorrowful, but her eyes held levels of understanding that Steph knew all too well. That was, yeah. One of the pains of Gotham was just how prevalent people in bad situations were. Bruce Wayne and Batman could only do so much. But hopefully we get a good turnout and we raise enough money to start towards our goal. Hell, girl crush aside, she definitely wanted to help. It just so happened she had several connections both in and out of the masks whose pockets were open and free-flowing without risk of running out anytime soon. Besides, it will make it much easier for Stephanie Brown, pseudo Wayne, to pop on a random coffee shop event, even if she drags someone else along. Steph moved to speak, but was cut off by as two travel cups were held up in the air by Gwen. Order up! The drinks felt warm in her hands, and Gwen quickly handed over the mystery muffin as well, which Steph managed to balance by pinning it against Bab's drink. You all set then? Oh yeah, she was. And while Oracle had not patched in yet, but she couldn't exactly just loiter in the store. Besides, she would better run the drinks to the clock tower if it's before it's cold. Then Babs would really have her head. Gwen just looked at her, her cheerful smile faltering as she tilted her head. Oh, she reached forward and tapped on of the wool caps with a purple-colored cardboard sleeve on it. The purple one's yours. I thought it matched. It's perfect. You are perfect. Okay, she needed to leave before she lost the last of her rapidly depleting brain power because of a pretty girl. But before she could turn away, Gwen held her hand out just a bit and Steph froze. If it's too much to ask, anything, it's yours. Okay, now she was really delusional, or else Gwen's cheeks may have turned a bit pink. She let out a nervous sigh. If you wouldn't mind, spread the word about our event, yeah? It's for a good cause. Spoiler grinned from under her mask. Of course, mark my words, Gotham is my responsibility, and so is every soul within the city, including cute little dogs and cats. Gwen beamed, lowering her hand and dusting off her apron. All right, I won't hold you responsibility and all, but thank you. Feel free to come again. I'll try to stop by. She made a small two-finger salute, though it was less impactful, whilst carefully kept balancing her cup of tea. Then she walked backwards out of the store, this time enjoying the now much more pleasant chime of the bell. Stiff on the edge of an apartment building, just a block or so from the clock tower, she had quickly dropped off coffee and left soon after. Babs didn't seem in the mood for company, which she respected. Besides, it was getting late, to the point day patrol would be ending, so of course she could take the time to enjoy herself. Popping off the travel lid, she was hit with a very rich and spice-filled flavor. It was pretty distinct, but she couldn't put a name to what exactly each spice was. Lifting it to her lips, she took a sip. Oh yeah, this was amazing, holy shit. It was maybe a bit sweet and strong, but honestly, it suited her taste. Holding the drink in one hand, she stuck her hand into one of the many deep pockets in her uniform and pulled out the brown paper bag. She pulled it out with little fanfare, but took a moment in order to open it since she had already committed to not putting her drink down. Steph was her own worst enemy. Inside was a muffin, as promised. It looked very plain at first sight, but Steve could see small morsels of something inside. A berry of some kind? No, too small. Giving in against her will, she put the cap down of tea and pulled it out completely. Lemon poppy seed. Surprise indeed, but hey, she wasn't complaining. The muffin was delicious, as expected, and definitely helped balance out how rich the tea was, which she already halfway finished just in the time she had settled down on the building after leaving Babs to her own devices. It was peaceful. Fuck, how dare she actually enjoy a day shift, hell not truly frozen over. A small sound caught her attention. Even when relaxing, vigilante instincts never fully turned off. To her relief, it wasn't someone sneaking onto the rooftop for smoke or whatever else. It was a bird. A robin, more specifically. It's been a while since I seen one of you. Always just pigeons, Steph said to, herself. The robin stood on a telephone line just a few feet away. It hopped sideways just a bit, tilting his head before quickly fluttering over to land equally far, but now on the roof itself. Steph looked at the bird and then down on the half of a muffin. You want some? The bird, of course, didn't answer, so she pulled off a small chunk and tossed it forward. The robin startled, fluttering back a bit, but slowly its gaze jumped between staring her down and the piece of muffin that now laid on the gravel roof. One hop, then two, the bird quickly picked up the muffin, and within seconds it had vanished. Steph threw another piece. This time the bird drew closer. It was kind of cool seeing it up close, paying attention to little things like how its tiny body expanded with each breath and how the breathing picked up just a tad after it would eat. The robin had gotten so close it was practically eating out of her hand. It took every bit of self-control and understanding Damien's several lectures about wildlife staying wild to not try to pet it. After fluttering of wings and the robin backed out, its head darting to the side as Steph followed its gaze. Right on that same telephone line was a cardinal. Seemed she was just attracting all the birds at the point. 2 bright red birds at that. Must be a male then. She held up a piece of muffin, tossing it to the same place she had fed Robin the first time, and another piece right next to her for the small bird. But this time the cardinal did not move. It just stared there, tilting its head forth and back as if examining if she was afraid. Well, better cautious than that. The bird had good instincts then. I don't bite. Besides, I imagine you're hungry. Why don't I yourself some free grub? Was it a little crazy trying to have a rational, persuasive conversation with a bird? Maybe. But hey, this was far from the crazy things she had done. The cardinal did not move. The robin did, picking up the piece that was in front of it and then quickly flying off, dipping around the side of a building and disappearing from sight. Damn, the damn red bird had chased off her friend. Happy now? Steph raised a brow, expecting the bird to seize its claim on whatever muffin was left. But once again, it stayed still. This time, just for a moment more, and then it took off, leaving the food behind. Weird as bird. Steph sighed and glanced down at the remains, not enough worth the effort. She made a quick effort of peeling what was left away from the wrapper and tossing it over by the abandoned piece. Well, someone would appreciate the good backing of what was just scraps to her, even if Mr. Cardinal felt that he was too good for it. She stuffed the wrapper in her pocket, as well as the now empty teacup as she stood, unhooking her grappling hook and preparing to head back home. Her shift was done, and she had a baby brother to convince into joining her for a little fun charity event not connected to her dad. Then again, she was sure the moment Damien heard the word skull shatter, he would be ready to give both his kidneys for some animals he didn't even know. Grappling hook in hand, she lined up with her target and pulled the trigger. A loud wail sounded as the hook launched and attached a building just across the way. Steph lifted her leg over the edge, one glance at the now foggy and yet ever-bursting street below as the sun began to dip on the horizon and paint in the sky an array of beautiful colors. She took one last breath, then she soared. This is the end, and I'm sorry because I probably won't put music into there or any editing, so there's probably a lot of mistakes, and I'm sorry for my accent in some places, but it's 2:30 a.m. and I just realized from one comment that the before chapter 6 I posted was not in fact chapter 6, and I'm sorry for that. Why did only one person tell me that? Well, here you have Very Hurry chapter 6. Hope you enjoyed and have a good day. God, I can't talk anymore.